What if the life you want is already possible, but your mind keeps pulling you away from it? Not because you lack ability, but because your attention is scattered, your reactions are automatic, and your thoughts are running without direction. Over time, this creates a quiet pattern where your energy is drained by small distractions, your focus is broken again and again, and your emotions begin to lead instead of follow. This is how the mind slowly loses its strength. In Buddhism, discipline is not about forcing control, it is about creating stability within, so the mind no longer moves with every impulse, every distraction, or every temporary feeling. It becomes steady, clear, and intentional. In this, you will learn how to discipline your mind in a way that reshapes your entire life, not by changing everything around you, but by mastering what is within. Lesson 1. Hold your mind to a standard. Most people try to control their life, but very few learn to set a clear standard for their own mind. They expect discipline in their actions, results in their work, and improvement in their circumstances, but they allow their thoughts, reactions, and focus to move without direction. This creates a gap. On one side, there is what you want your life to be. On the other side, there is a mind that does not consistently support that direction. When the mind has no standard, it follows whatever feels easiest in the moment. It drifts toward distraction, reacts without thinking, and gives attention to anything that pulls it. One moment, it is focused. The next moment, it is scattered. One moment, it is clear. The next moment, it is overwhelmed. This inconsistency slowly weakens your ability to stay on track, not because you lack intention, but because your mind is not being guided. Holding your mind to a standard means deciding how you expect it to behave, regardless of how you feel in the moment. It means choosing clarity over confusion, focus over distraction, and awareness over automatic reaction. This is not about forcing perfection. It is about creating a direction that your mind returns to again and again. Without a standard, your mind negotiates with every impulse. It justifies distractions, delays important actions, and follows temporary feelings. It tells you that you can do things later, that small distractions do not matter, or that your current mood should decide your behavior. Over time, these small decisions accumulate, and they shape your life more than you realize. When you set a standard, you remove this constant negotiation. You make a clear decision about how you will direct your attention and actions. For example, you decide that when it is time to focus, you focus. When it is time to act, you act. You do not wait for the perfect mood or the right feeling. You follow the standard you have set, not the impulses that arise. This creates consistency, and consistency builds strength. Each time you follow your standard, even when it is difficult, you reinforce control over your mind. You prove to yourself that your actions are not controlled by temporary feelings. This gradually changes how your mind operates. It becomes more stable, because it is no longer reacting to everything. It is important to understand that the standard you set does not have to be extreme. It needs to be clear and realistic. If it is too rigid, the mind will resist it. But if it is too loose, it will not guide you. The balance is in setting a standard that challenges you while still being sustainable. This can begin with simple commitments. You decide how you will handle distractions, how you will respond to certain situations, and how you will use your time. When these situations arise, instead of deciding again in the moment, you follow the standard you have already set. This reduces decision fatigue and creates a more stable pattern of behavior. This changes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who reacts based on mood. You begin to see yourself as someone who acts with intention. This shift is powerful because your sense of control comes from within, not from external conditions. There will be moments when you do not follow your standard perfectly. The mind may slip back into old patterns, but this does not undo your progress. What matters is that you return to your standard again without hesitation. Each return strengthens the habit of discipline. A mind without a standard is easily influenced. It moves in whatever direction the environment or emotions push it. But a mind with a clear standard becomes steady. It knows where to return, even when it is pulled away temporarily. Discipline is not about controlling everything perfectly. It is about having a clear direction and returning to it consistently. When you hold your mind to a standard, you reduce confusion, increase focus, and build a sense of stability that does not depend on how you feel in the moment. Your actions become more aligned, your decisions become clearer, and your life begins to reflect the direction you have chosen, because your mind is no longer moving without purpose. It is being guided with intention. Lesson 2. Stay consistent even when you don't feel like it. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to discipline their mind is because they rely on how they feel in the moment. When motivation is high, action feels easy. Focus comes naturally, and everything seems to flow. But when motivation drops, the mind begins to resist. It looks for reasons to delay, to avoid, or to do something easier instead. This creates a pattern where progress depends on mood, and mood is never stable. Feelings change constantly. Some days you feel clear and driven, other days you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated without any clear reason. If your actions depend on these changing states, consistency becomes impossible. You move forward for a short time, then stop, then start again. This stop and start pattern weakens discipline because the mind learns that it can step away whenever it feels discomfort. Consistency means continuing to act even when the feeling is not there. It means understanding that discipline is not built in moments of motivation, but in moments of resistance. When you do something despite not feeling like it, you strengthen control over your mind. You show yourself that your actions are not dependent on temporary emotions. This does not mean ignoring your well-being or forcing yourself beyond your limits. It means recognizing the difference between genuine need for rest and the mind's habit of avoiding effort. Often, the resistance you feel is not because you cannot act, but because your mind prefers something easier. If you follow that preference every time, it becomes a habit. When you choose to stay consistent, even in small ways, you begin to break this pattern. You complete what you planned, even if your energy is lower. You show up, even if your focus is not perfect. You take action, even if it feels slower than usual. These small decisions may not feel significant in the moment, but over time, they build a strong foundation. Consistency also creates momentum. When you act regularly, your mind becomes more familiar with the process. It no longer feels like a new effort each time. This reduces resistance because the action becomes part of your routine rather than something you need to convince yourself to do. There is also a sense of trust that develops. When you act consistently, you begin to trust yourself more. You know that you will follow through, regardless of how you feel. This reduces internal conflict because there is no longer a constant negotiation between intention and action. This can be practiced by focusing on simple commitments. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or the right feeling, you act at the time you decide. Even if the effort is not at its highest level, you still complete it. This reinforces the habit of consistency. It is important to understand that consistency does not mean perfection. There will be days when your performance is lower. There will be moments when you feel distracted or unfocused. What matters is not the intensity of each effort, but the continuity of your actions. Showing up consistently is more important than performing perfectly. This changes how your mind responds to discomfort. Instead of immediately resisting, it becomes more willing to continue. It understands that action will happen regardless of the initial feeling. This reduces the power of temporary emotions over your behavior. A disciplined mind does not wait for motivation. It creates structure and follows it. It does not depend on how things feel at the moment. It depends on the decisions that have already been made. Staying consistent when you don't feel like it is what builds real discipline. It is what separates temporary effort from lasting change. Each time you act despite resistance, you strengthen your control, your focus, and your direction. And as this becomes your habit, you begin to notice something important. Your life no longer moves based on how you feel in the moment. It moves based on what you have chosen to do. And that is where true discipline begins to take shape. Lesson 3. Stop negotiating with distractions. Distractions rarely enter your life as something obvious. They do not always appear as clear interruptions. Instead, they come quietly, often disguised as something small, harmless, or even necessary. The mind tells you that checking something for a moment will not matter, that a short break is deserved, or that you can return to your task later. These thoughts seem reasonable, and because they feel small, you allow them without resistance. This is how distractions take control, not through force, but through negotiation. Each time you pause your focus to respond to something unnecessary, you weaken your ability to stay present. What begins as a brief shift in attention slowly turns into a pattern. Your mind becomes used to moving away from what matters toward what is easier or more immediately stimulating. Over time, this creates a habit where focus feels difficult, not because you lack ability, but because your attention has been trained to break. The problem is not only the time lost in distraction, but the fragmentation of your mind. Every time your attention shifts, it takes effort to return. Your thoughts become scattered, your progress slows, and your mental clarity begins to fade. Even after you return to your task, part of your attention remains elsewhere, making it harder to fully engage again. Negotiation with distractions often happens in subtle ways. You tell yourself that you will start soon, but not now. You convince yourself that you will work better later. You allow one small interruption, which quickly leads to another. These decisions may seem insignificant at the moment, but they shape your behavior over time. The mind learns that focus is optional, and distraction becomes the default. Stopping this pattern requires a clear decision. You must recognize that not every thought deserves a response. Not every urge needs to be followed. When you feel the pull of distraction, negotiating with it, you simply return to what you have already chosen to do. This removes the need to decide again in the moment. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. The mind is used to variety and stimulation, so staying with one task can feel restrictive. You may feel the urge to check something, to switch tasks, or to do something easier. But if you remain with the task without following that urge, you begin to build strength. You show your mind that it does not need to act on every impulse. Focus becomes stronger when it is protected. Each time you resist distraction, you reinforce your ability to stay present. Over time, this makes it easier to concentrate for longer periods. What once felt difficult becomes more natural because your mind is no longer constantly shifting. It is also important to reduce opportunities for distraction. Many distractions are not accidental, they are built into your environment. Notifications, constant access to information, and easy forms of entertainment all compete for your attention. By becoming aware of this, you can create conditions that support focus rather than disrupt it. This can be practiced by setting clear boundaries. When you begin a task, decide that your attention will stay with it for a certain period. If a distracting thought arises, notice it, but do not follow it. Let it pass, and return to what you are doing. This simple action, repeated consistently, begins to change your mental habits. You will notice that your mind becomes less restless, The constant urge to switch tasks begins to weaken. You are able to stay with one thing without feeling the need to escape. This creates a deeper level of concentration, where your work becomes more effective and your thinking becomes clearer. A mind that negotiates with distractions becomes divided and unfocused, but a mind that holds its attention steadily becomes sharp and disciplined. It is not pulled in every direction because it knows where to stay. Discipline is not only about what you do, it is about what you refuse to follow. When you stop negotiating with distractions, you remove a major source of lost energy. Your attention becomes stronger, your actions become more consistent, and your mind becomes more stable. You begin to experience something that is often overlooked: the ability to stay fully present with what matters without being pulled away by everything else. That is where real focus begins, and that is where true discipline takes shape. Lesson 4. Build tolerance for inner discomfort. One of the main reasons the mind becomes undisciplined is not because it lacks ability, but because it has been trained to avoid discomfort at all costs. The moment something feels difficult, uncertain, boring, or emotionally heavy, the mind looks for a way out. It shifts attention, delays action, or replaces the task with something easier. This habit may feel natural, but over time, it weakens your ability to stay steady. Inner discomfort appears in many forms. It can be the restlessness you feel when trying to focus, the resistance that shows up when you start something important, the tension that comes when things are not going your way, or the quiet unease that appears when you are alone without distraction. These experiences are not harmful, but the mind treats them as something that must be removed immediately. Because of this, you begin to depend on comfort to function. You act when things feel right and avoid them when they do not. This creates inconsistency because comfort is not stable. It changes from moment to moment. If your actions depend on feeling comfortable, your discipline will always be limited. Building tolerance for inner discomfort means changing how you relate to these experiences. Instead of seeing discomfort as a signal to stop, you begin to see it as a normal part of growth and focus. You allow it to exist without immediately reacting to it. This does not mean forcing yourself into extreme situations, but it does mean staying present when things feel slightly difficult. This can feel challenging. The mind is used to escaping discomfort quickly, so when you choose to stay with it, it may react strongly. It may create more thoughts, more urges to stop, or more reasons to avoid what you are doing. But if you observe this carefully, you will notice that the discomfort itself is not as overwhelming as it seems. It rises, stays for a while, and then begins to settle. When you do not immediately escape discomfort, you begin to build strength. Each time you stay with a difficult moment without reacting, you increase your ability to handle it. What once felt uncomfortable starts to feel manageable. Your tolerance expands, and your mind becomes less sensitive to small disturbances. This shift is important because many valuable actions involve some level of discomfort. Focus requires staying with one thing even when the mind wants to move. Growth requires effort even when it feels challenging. Discipline requires consistency even when motivation is low. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid these processes. But when you learn to tolerate it, you open the door to progress. It is also important to understand that discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Often, it is simply the mind adjusting to a new level of effort or awareness. The initial resistance you feel when starting a task is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are moving beyond your usual patterns. By staying with it, you allow your mind to adapt. This can be practiced in small ways. When you feel the urge to stop a task because it feels uncomfortable, pause instead of acting immediately. Notice the feeling without labeling it as something negative. Stay with the task for a little longer. These small extensions of effort gradually build your tolerance. This changes how your mind responds to difficulty. Instead of reacting quickly, it becomes more stable. It understands that discomfort is temporary and does not need to be avoided. This reduces the urge to escape and increases your ability to stay focused. There is also a sense of control that comes from this practice. When you are no longer controlled by discomfort, you are able to choose your actions more freely. You are not limited by how things feel in the moment. This creates a stronger connection between your intentions and your behavior. It is important to be balanced in this approach. Building tolerance does not mean ignoring your limits or pushing yourself without awareness. It means recognizing the difference between harmful strain and normal discomfort. You learn to stay with what is manageable, without forcing or avoiding. A mind that cannot tolerate discomfort becomes fragile. It reacts to every small challenge and struggles to stay consistent. But a mind that can remain steady within discomfort becomes strong. It does not collapse under pressure because it has learned to stay present even when things are not easy. Discipline is not about making everything comfortable. It is about becoming stable, regardless of comfort. When you build tolerance for inner discomfort, you remove one of the biggest barriers to focus, consistency, and growth. And as this tolerance grows, you begin to notice something powerful. What once felt difficult no longer controls you. You are able to continue, to stay present, and to act with clarity, even when the moment is not ideal. That is where real discipline begins, and that is what allows your mind to become truly strong. Lesson 5. Remove unnecessary decisions. A large amount of mental fatigue does not come from difficult problems. It comes from the constant need to decide small things throughout the day. What to do next, when to start, how to begin, whether to continue, whether to take a break. These decisions may seem minor, but repeated again and again, they drain your mental energy. The mind becomes tired not because it is doing too much, but because it is constantly switching, evaluating, and choosing. When your day is filled with unnecessary decisions, your focus becomes unstable. Each moment requires a new choice, and with each choice comes the possibility of hesitation or distraction. The mind begins to delay action, question itself, or look for easier alternatives. This creates friction, making even simple tasks feel heavier than they need to be. A disciplined mind reduces this friction by removing decisions that do not need to be made repeatedly. Instead of deciding in the moment every time, you create structure. You decide once, and then you follow that decision consistently. This turns many actions into automatic processes rather than mental negotiations. For example, when you already know what needs to be done at a certain time, there is no need to think about it again. You simply begin. This removes the space where doubt and distraction usually enter. The mind is not given the opportunity to resist because the decision has already been made. This approach is not about making life rigid. It is about creating clarity. When fewer decisions are required, the mind becomes lighter. It no longer has to constantly evaluate what to do next. Instead, it can focus its energy on the quality of action rather than the act of choosing. Unnecessary decisions often appear in moments of low clarity. When you are unsure about what to do, the mind begins to search for alternatives. It looks for something easier, something more comfortable, or something more immediately rewarding. This is where distractions gain strength. The lack of a clear decision creates an opening for the mind to drift. By removing these unnecessary choices, you close that opening. You create a direct path from intention to action. This reduces hesitation and increases consistency. The mind learns that once something is decided, it will be followed through without repeated questioning. There is also a sense of relief that comes with this. When you no longer have to decide everything in the moment, you reduce internal pressure. You are not constantly asking yourself what to do next. You already know. This clarity creates a calmer mental state and allows you to move through your day with more ease. This can be practiced by identifying areas where you make the same decisions repeatedly. These could be related to your work, your routines, or how you use your time. Instead of deciding each time, create a simple structure. Decide once, and then follow it. This reduces the mental effort required for those actions. This builds a sense of rhythm. Your actions become more consistent because they are not dependent on repeated decisions. The mind becomes more focused because it is not constantly switching between options. This improves both your productivity and your sense of control. It is important to understand that not all decisions should be removed. Some require careful thought and attention, but many small, repetitive choices do not need to be reconsidered every day. By reducing these, you preserve your mental energy for what truly matters. A mind that is constantly deciding becomes tired and distracted, but a mind that operates with clear structure becomes steady and efficient. It knows where its attention should go, and it moves in that direction without unnecessary delay. Discipline is not only about controlling actions, it is about simplifying the path toward them. When you remove unnecessary decisions, you reduce resistance, increase clarity, and make it easier to act consistently. And as this becomes your habit, you begin to experience something powerful. Your mind is no longer slowed down by constant choice. It becomes direct, focused, and intentional. And that is what allows you to move forward with strength and stability, without being held back by the small decisions that once drained your energy. Lesson 6. Protect your focus. Like something precious. Your focus is one of the most valuable abilities you have, yet it is often treated as something unlimited. You give it away to every notification, every small interruption, every passing thought. Throughout the day, your attention is pulled in many directions, and over time, this constant shifting weakens your ability to stay with anything deeply. Focus is not just about productivity, it shapes how you experience life. When your attention is scattered, everything feels incomplete. You start something but do not fully engage with it. You listen, but part of your mind is elsewhere. You act, but without full presence. This creates a sense of mental fatigue, not because you are doing too much, but because your attention is divided. Most distractions do not feel significant at the moment. A quick check, a small interruption, a brief shift in attention, each one seems harmless. But when these moments repeat throughout the day, they break your focus into fragments. Each time you return to your task, you must rebuild your concentration. This repeated effort drains your energy and reduces the quality of your work. Protecting your focus means recognizing that your attention is limited. It cannot be given to everything without consequence. Just as you would protect something valuable, you begin to guard where your attention goes. You become more selective about what you engage with and more intentional about how you use your time. This does not require complete isolation from the world. It requires awareness. You begin to notice what consistently pulls your attention away from what matters. It may be external interruptions, digital distractions, or even your own habits of shifting focus. By recognizing these patterns, you can start to reduce their influence. One important part of protecting your focus is creating clear boundaries. When you decide to focus on something, you limit interruptions as much as possible. You give your full attention to one task instead of dividing it across many. This allows your mind to settle into deeper concentration, where clarity and efficiency naturally increase. Another part is learning to stay with one thing, even when the mind wants to move. The urge to switch tasks often appears when something becomes slightly difficult or less interesting. If you follow that urge every time, your focus becomes weak. But if you remain with the task, even for a little longer, you strengthen your ability to concentrate. This creates a different experience. Instead of constantly shifting, your mind begins to stay. Instead of feeling scattered, it feels more grounded. You are able to engage more fully with what you are doing, and this improves both the quality of your work and your sense of presence. Protecting your focus also reduces mental noise. When your attention is not constantly pulled away, your thoughts become more organized. You are able to think more clearly because your mind is not overwhelmed by constant input and interruption. This clarity allows you to make better decisions and respond more effectively to situations. This can be practiced by being intentional with your attention. When you start a task, commit to giving it your full focus for a certain period. Notice when your mind tries to move away and gently bring it back. Reduce unnecessary interruptions and create an environment that supports concentration. It is also helpful to recognize that not everything deserves your attention. Many things compete for your focus, but few truly matter. By choosing carefully what you engage with, you preserve your mental energy for what is important. Protecting your focus becomes a habit. Your mind no longer shifts as easily because it has been trained to stay. You become more efficient, not by doing more, but by doing things with full attention. A scattered mind feels weak because it cannot stay in one place. But a focused mind becomes strong because it can remain steady. It is not pulled in every direction, and it does not lose energy through constant shifting. Discipline is not only about what you do, it is about how fully you are present while doing it. When you protect your focus, you strengthen your ability to direct your mind. You reduce unnecessary effort, increase clarity, and create a deeper sense of control over your attention. And as this control grows, you begin to notice something powerful. Your mind is no longer easily distracted or divided. It becomes steady, intentional, and capable of deep concentration. And that is what allows you to move through life with clarity, purpose, and strength. Lesson 7. Keep returning to control. No matter how disciplined you become, your mind will not stay perfectly controlled all the time. There will be moments when your attention drifts, when distractions take over, when emotions become stronger than your awareness, and when old habits quietly return. This is not a failure, it is the natural behavior of an untrained mind gradually being shaped. The problem is not that the mind loses control. The real problem is when you do not return to it. Most people lose control for a moment, and then they stay there. A small distraction turns into a long delay. A brief loss of focus becomes an entire day of scattered attention. A single emotional reaction expands into unnecessary stress. This happens because the mind believes that once control is lost, it is easier to continue in that direction than to correct it. But discipline is not built by never losing control. It is built by how quickly you return when you do. Returning to control means becoming aware the moment you drift and bringing your attention back without hesitation. It is the simple act of noticing that your mind has moved away and guiding it back to where it needs to be. This may seem small, but it is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Each time you return, you strengthen your control. You show your mind that distraction is temporary and that awareness is always available. You reduce the time spent in unnecessary patterns, and you increase the time spent in clarity and focus. This may need to happen frequently. Your mind may drift many times throughout the day. You may lose focus, react impulsively, or fall into old habits. But instead of becoming frustrated, you simply return, again and again, without judgment, without delay. This repeated return is what builds discipline. The gap between losing control and returning becomes smaller. You notice distractions earlier. You catch emotional reactions before they fully take over. You become aware of your patterns more quickly. This reduces the intensity of those patterns because they are not allowed to continue for long. There is also a shift in how you see yourself. Instead of identifying with moments of distraction or loss of control, you begin to identify with the act of returning. Your strength is no longer measured by perfection, but by your ability to come back to awareness consistently. This creates resilience. Even when you slip, you do not stay there. You correct yourself and continue. This prevents small moments from turning into larger setbacks. Your progress becomes more stable because it is not easily disrupted. This practice is simple but consistent. When you notice your attention drifting, bring it back to your task. When you realize you are reacting emotionally, pause and return to awareness. When you see that you have been distracted, stop and refocus. These small corrections, repeated throughout the day, build a strong foundation. It is important to understand that returning to control should not be forced with frustration. If you react with harshness toward yourself, you create more tension. The return should be calm and clear. You simply recognize what happened and adjust your direction. This approach makes discipline sustainable. It removes the pressure of being perfect and replaces it with the practice of being aware. You are not trying to control everything at once. You are simply returning, moment by moment. This creates a stable mind, not because it never moves, but because it always knows how to come back. This ability becomes automatic. Your mind begins to correct itself without much effort because the habit of returning has been reinforced. A mind that never returns becomes lost in its own patterns, but a mind that keeps returning becomes steady, even in the presence of distraction and difficulty. It is not easily carried away because it has learned how to find its center again. Discipline is not a single action, it is a continuous process. It is the ability to notice, adjust, and return again and again. This is what creates lasting change, because it is built into every moment, not just the ones where everything goes perfectly. And as this practice becomes part of you, you begin to realize something powerful. No matter how many times your mind drifts, you are never far from control. You can always return. And that ability, repeated over time, is what makes your mind truly disciplined, steady, and unbreakable. A disciplined mind does not appear overnight. It is shaped in the quiet moments where you choose control over impulse, clarity over distraction, and direction over habit. Each time you follow through on what truly matters, you are not just completing an action, you are reshaping the way your mind operates. Life will not always become easier, and situations will not always go your way, but when your mind is trained, those external changes no longer define how you feel or how you respond. You begin to move with stability instead of reaction, with awareness instead of impulse, and with purpose instead of confusion. And that is the real transformation. Because the moment your mind becomes disciplined, your life begins to follow in the same direction.